The Audi Q5 has been a long-standing favourite in the premium SUV class, and there's been a slight refresh for 2021. So we thought we'd revisit it and firstly, see what's changed, and secondly, see if it still stands out from the crowd. And while we're here, we would love it if you subscribe to the CarGurus UK YouTube channel to stay up to date with all of our latest car reviews, buying guides and top 10s. This particular car is finished in district green metallic paint, which is a new colour for 2021, as well as ultra blue. What do you think of it? Would it be on your Q5? I'm not too sure it would be on mine. The other question to ask is, would you go for the Edition 1 over the standard S-Line trim? Edition 1 is designed to sit above Sport and S-Line trims but below the top spec Vorsprung model, and on the outside includes matte black diamond cut wheels and a black styling pack. The idea is to look like a top spec Vorsprung but cost less. Do note it runs on slightly smaller 20-inch wheels. Edition 1 also gets you the fine Nappa leather that you get in the Vorsprung models. We'll come back to those in a second. First of all, I just want to show you the boot to remind us of the Q5's practical credentials. The volume itself is a highly useful 520 litres, which you can expand to 550 litres by sliding forward the rear seats. The important thing to note here is that this is a petrol model. If you go for the plug-in hybrid, which we've reviewed before, you lose about 155 litres of boot space. Meanwhile, if you'd like to fold the rear seats down, you do so with this lever here. I'll just fold this back up. It is easier actually if you do it from the outside of the car. It wasn't that heavy, I can assure you, or I'm not that weak. Anyway, let's go back to that Nappa leather. It is very luxurious. In fact, the whole ambience in here is very upmarket. And I particularly like this really long panoramic roof. And on a sunny day, I can imagine it really does flood the cabin with lots of light. On this dreary rainy day, it's made it quite light, but it's still pretty impressive, although it is £1,400. So would you go for it? The space in here is good. I've got plenty of leg room, and even if you're 6 foot, you'll still feel that it's pretty comfortable. And if you go for Vorsprung or Edition 1, you can slide these seats forwards and backwards, and you can also adjust the backrest, so you can get really, really comfortable. If you're going for a Sport or an S-Line, you will have to pay extra for that feature though. The only real downside in the back of this interior is this enormous transmission tunnel. So if you are a family of 5, it's probably ideal that you all sit in the back, well, the 3 that are going to be sitting in the back, and just test out the seats and make sure that you all fit and that there aren't going to be any squabbles about who gets this seat. It is definitely not the best seat in the house or the car. You might also squabble with your partner about who gets this driver's seat, because it is a very pleasant place to be. The quality and design of this second generation Q5 have always been outstanding, and the facelift is no exception to that. While the overall design of the Q5's interior hasn't changed dramatically with the 2021 facelift, there is one key difference. It's this new infotainment system, which to us is good and not so good. So it's grown to 10.1 inches, which is good. It has a faster processor, again good, and built-in navigation across all Q5s, again good. Now, what is not so good is the fact that the rotary controller has disappeared. So we've got a little bit of extra storage, but it means that you have to use the touchscreen, which is not so good when you're driving and you're on the move and you want to concentrate on the road and just quickly access it from the rotary controller. And when you're coming up to a junction and you just want to zoom into the map and out again, no, you can't do that anymore. Thankfully, all Q5s come with Audi's outstanding virtual cockpit digital dials, which include full screen mapping and, hooray, physical controls on the steering wheel. Elsewhere up front, I've got decent storage, I've got a decent sized door bin there and 2 cup holders under arm storage there. and a decent sized glove box with the bananas back in town. And we really like the fact that we've got some manual buttons here for the heater control, so you don't have to go through another touchscreen to get to them. So let's see what it's like on the road, shall we? On the move, the Q5 feels big, not Range Rover big, but still quite large, and definitely more of an SUV than a crossover. So with that in mind, some people might find it a little intimidating when they first get in, but rest assured you will get used to it. The engine lineup includes a diesel and a petrol, plus there are the plug-in hybrids we mentioned earlier. They all have their plus points, and in a way they all suit the Q5 well, so it's going to be dependent on which one suits you best. So in general terms, company car drivers will probably go for the plug-in hybrid because that maximises tax benefits. People who do high mileage will likely want a diesel, and for everybody else, this petrol will probably suit them best. This petrol is a 2-litre 4-cylinder turbo that's badged as a 40 TFSI and pushes out 261 horsepower. Using mild hybrid technology, its official combined fuel economy is 32 miles per gallon, and it can get from 0 to 62 in 6.1 seconds. When it comes to the way it drives, there's definitely a sense that this petrol Q5 is trying to be all things to all people. On one hand, the rolling refinement is excellent, and at a steady motorway cruise, you could almost mistake the Q5 for an EV. Around town you do hear slightly more of the 4-cylinder growl, but it's far from an unpleasant noise, and unless you have the drive select driving modes in the dynamic setting, the standard fit automatic gearbox changes up as early as possible to keep the engine in the lowest possible rev range. If you're feeling a bit sportier, you're going to want to knock drive select into dynamic setting, and what that does, if I just knock it into dynamic setting, what that does is it adds extra weight to the steering, and it also sharpens the throttle response. Now, those two things alone don't make a huge amount of difference. What makes the biggest difference is the gearbox is instructed to hold onto the gears for longer, therefore you get into higher revs and you can carry more speed. There's also a manual setting for the gearbox. Just knock the lever to the left and you can use the steering wheel mounted paddles to move up and down the 7 gears. You still don't get full control because the Audi will still change up rather than allow you to hit the rev limiter. However, that added layer of interaction definitely adds a dynamic to the driving and allows you to explore the Audi Q5's rev range while still keeping the engine safe. So the drivetrain can be smooth or relatively sporty, but what about the rest of the car? The ride is good, if not outstanding, and the Edition 1 gets passive sport suspension. Our advice is to upgrade to the air suspension, and the difference that makes is that although fundamentally the Q5 is a comfortable cosseting car, you do feel some of the lumps and bumps that the air suspension would help iron out. For such a tall and heavy car, body control is good, and if you want to throw the Q5 into a roundabout or along a twisty country road, it will be happy to oblige. Like the engine, the handling when pushed is competent rather than truly exciting. The steering is light and doesn't really feel that well connected. There's no real feel through the chassis. But hey, if that's the kind of thing that you want from your SUV, then you need to go for an SQ5 or Porsche Macan. Where this petrol Q5 model fits in is more of an all-rounder, and the £50,000 list price when combined with Edition 1 spec does make it a little difficult to justify. When it's in Sport or S-Line trim, however, it's a little more affordable, and it's got a great combination of size, performance, comfort and prestige, as well as excellent refinement. And it's for these reasons it's still one of our favourite premium SUVs. Are you a fan of the Q5? Let us know in the comments, and if you're considering buying a used example, head to CarGurus.co.uk to find lots of great deals from top-rated dealers, including plenty of approved used examples. Plus, as ever, please do like this video and subscribe to the CarGurus UK YouTube channel.